Well, we appreciate the Washington Group and putting this meeting together, and we appreciate what they've been doing under Andy's leadership and our opportunity of the U.S.-Ukraine Business Council to participate with them on many programs and to work together with them for the advancement of our mutual causes. I would like to say that all of the issues that we talk about today in terms of rule of law, building democracy, civil society, etc., are all parts of building a strong, independent, prosperous nation. And they're all integrated, of course, into also building a strong economy and a strong private business section of that nation. The business community, of course, wants rule of law. The business wants a civil society. Business wants democracy. Business wants a strong middle class and high education levels. Of course, the other groups want all that too, and we're not going to be able to get there unless we all cooperate together. And business and the economic system substantially contribute to all of those other factors. The business community, of course, brings in investment. It creates jobs. It creates lots of jobs. It creates high-paying jobs. It pays taxes. It donates to civil society. It provides volunteers for civil society. And so the contribution that the economic and business community makes to building a strong nation is substantial. Normally it's it's not given adequate credit for what it does in terms of building a nation and how all the various components of a society have to work together. The big challenge for Ukraine from the beginning of independence has been, how do you take a country where there was a total monopoly in everything and turn it into a top-down country, to a bottom-up country, to a government-run country, to a private-run country with support from the government. Ukraine, as you know, has this monopolistic mentality, and if there's any one word to describe the Soviet system and much of what's left is monopolies. They like to have monopolies in political power, they like to have monopolies in economic power, monopolies in the media, and they like to control everything. And of course, one of the words for this new administration is monopolistic. That's the way they grew up, that's the way they were trained, that's their modus of operation, and the question is what can be balanced, or what can be stopped, or what compromises there can be made between the monopolistic features of how they operate and what we think in terms of the private sector power, the power of the private sector through democracy, or the power of the private sector through private business. Ukraine, for the last 20 years, it's only been probably half open for business. It's never been fully open for business. And if we're going to build the kind of Ukraine that we all want, we're going to have to get it fully open for business. So the battle to get Ukraine open for business continues. The battle to integrate Ukraine's economic system and business system into the world economy also continues. As most of you know, the energy section of Ukraine has been almost totally closed and still is, and there's some indications maybe they're going to start opening it up. Most of you know that all of the rankings around the world for ease of doing business, access to business, ease of putting small businesses together, Ukraine's always in the bottom 20% of all the world's rating agencies. So because of their bureaucracy, because of corruption, because of their tax structure, and because of all the impediments left over from the Soviet system, Ukraine is really only one half open for business. This holds back Ukraine's development. It holds back the development of all the other areas that we were talking about this morning. After the Orange Revolution, Ukraine did start opening up for business more, and because of its size, because of 40-some million people, and because of its location, almost all your businesses in Europe, including the U.S. businesses in Europe, said, who were not already in Ukraine, they said, why not be in Ukraine? Why would we want to be left out of a 40 million plus market? why would we not want to play there? So, of course, we were very happy when all the European banks came in and bought banks. We're very happy when all your European consumer good companies, grocery stores, Home Depots type things, everybody started to flood into Ukraine as a place to do business, but also as a place to manufacture and distribute. They also, of course, then ran into many of the restrictions of doing business in Ukraine, but there was a massive inflow. And Ukraine was starting to develop, and what we were happy about was the Ukraine businesses were starting to borrow money in London and Warsaw. They were starting to buy businesses in Poland, Georgia, and other places, and integrate into the world economy. Of course, most all of that stopped then when there was the economic crisis rolled out of the United States and rolled across the world, and it hit Ukraine very hard, very quickly. Many of them had great exposures. Many of them had borrowed money on hard currency terms, which had to be paid back with income from the hryvnia. The hryvnia, as you know, went from 5 to 8, just like that. And so much of our work to open Ukraine for doing business and to integrate it into the world economy got stopped. Ukraine then immediately needed the help of the IMF, made an agreement, still needs the help of the IMF, and still is very dependent upon future inflows of huge amounts of cash from the IMF. So the job of getting Ukraine open for business and to integrate it into the world economy so that there could be, actually the Soviet theory of economics was very static, and about half the people in Ukraine now understand growth economics and about half static economics. About half of them still want to take the economy just as it is, keep it just as it is, and let's cut it up among ourselves and figure out how to be wealthy that way. The other half realize you got to grow. There's going to be more for everybody. But normally, sometimes at the end of the day, the group that believes in carving up Ukraine among themselves and a static theory of economics, and let's cut up the table and not build a hotel, still rule the end of the day. Now, in 2011, Ukraine is starting to come back out of the economic crisis. They're starting to get money back out of Europe. There's a lot more people coming here and to New York looking for political risk insurance, looking for investments, looking to move forward. We think some progress is being made in the energy area. We think that some progress is being made in the retail area. And the main opportunities in Ukraine today are in retail, IT, in energy, and we hope in agribusiness. There are some things happening that are of great concern to us. Some of the forces in Ukraine that want to monopolize and stop development or keep it just for themselves have now taken over agribusiness. And about 6 or 7 months ago, they started destroying all the grain markets, interfering with the grain markets, and all the large international companies now say it's worse than it's been at any time in the last 20 years. And there's a big battle going on in Ukraine as to whether they're going to tighten down and set up a monopoly and control agribusiness, or whether they're going to open it up. Ukraine, again, only produces half of the agricultural products and food products that they could, just like their economy is only producing about half of what it could. So, in terms of where Ukraine's going, there's a lot of progress, and there's some good news, but there's also some clouds on the horizon. Now, all these businesses that's been in Ukraine, most of them have not left. Most of them have figured out how to survive there. They've figured out better ways to structure their businesses. The old concept of having a joint venture, letting somebody else have part of the business, that's been thrown out. They must pretty much control all the businesses themselves. So the business community is very committed to Ukraine. The business community is starting to donate in Ukraine. They're creating good jobs. They're going to stay there. They're not going to leave. They don't want to leave this market, so they're very committed. But in terms of future investments, it's all kind of on hold as they see how the government rolls out. A new tax code has been passed, had some problems in there for individual entrepreneurs. The IMF program continues. Some progress on the energy area, but I guess the jury's still out as to whether how fast Ukraine's going to grow, how fast they're going to open up. But for anyone and everyone interested in the future of Ukraine, you should be very interested in how fast it grows. Can we open Ukraine fully for business? Can we integrate it into the world economy? because only there and then will we build the kind of Ukraine that we all want and the kind of Ukraine that the people of Ukraine deserve. And so we look forward to working with all of you who work in some of the other areas together to build a strong and prosperous democratic Ukraine. Thank you, Andy.